Welcome everybody to the Captain Spot. I'm your host Justin Freeman, 6 foot 1 inches, 275 pounds, fantasy knowledge, and Merry Christmas to everybody, you filthy animals. Appreciate you joining me here on a little Christmas edition of the Captain Spot. We'll keep it short and sweet here today. No sales pitch, no frills. We'll hop right into the slate so I can get back and stop being a negligent father in front of my children here as we're talking Vikings at Saints. This game has nearly a touchdown spread on it. Saints favored at home by 6.5 points. Total currently sitting at 50.5 points. Looks like it should be fun. Should be high-flying shootout type situation. We saw Drew Brees come back, struggle a little bit in his last performance against the Chiefs. He'll be taking on Kirk Cousins, who's looked great. Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook and company. There's a lot of premium options for us to consider on this slate. But there is one guy who I've got my eye on. So without further ado, let's hop into the injury report, where running back Alexander Mattison is out this game. That's Dalvin Cook's backup for the Vikings. Will not be getting him. That means, typically we're going to see more snaps projected than for Dalvin Cook. He's got a solid workload regardless, but just a little bit of Mike Boone, a little bit of Amir Abdullah sprinkled in. Not that we're really interested in either of those guys, but just something to consider when we're talking about projecting more usage than normal for Dalvin Cook, who always has plenty of it. Fullback C.J. Ham listed questionable there for the Vikings, and tight end Kyle Rudolph is out. This big bump to Irv Smith. We'll talk about some of the other options there as well. On the Saints side, wide receiver Traquan Smith is out. He obviously joins Michael Thomas, who's been placed on injured reserve. So we're going to be trying to backfill some of these positions there on the Saints side of the football. And that's where a little bit of value is going to open up. And we'll talk our way through that. I think that makes us a little bit more aggressive towards higher priced options, especially in the captain spot, since we know there are some cheaper Saints at the receiver position that we can take advantage of. So let's hop right into the pricing. And it's going to start where we're talking about Drew Brees and Kirk Cousins here at the quarterback position. What do we expect from these guys? We mentioned Brees started a little bit rocky last week. But overall, he's going to have a tough time, if we're thinking about Drew Brees in the captain spot, it's going to be tough in a situation where he's going to have a really focused, concentrated target share going directly to Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is going to project for really, really good usage here in this game. And, Kirk Cousins has got a similar problem on the other side where really two alpha receivers there in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. It's going to be tough for Kirk Cousins to get there. Both are going to be desirable flex options. Tough to get them into the captain spots. As we talk about the running back options for each of these teams, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, you could consider playing Latavius Murray. Even in lineups with Alvin Kamara, I think that's a great way to consider getting unique on a slate like this. Playing two running backs from the same team, not as much of an option over on the Minnesota side of the football. It would take probably a true blowout type situation for Mike Boone to get enough rushing usage to pay off. And, that's not a script that we're chasing for Dalvin Cook. So doesn't really make as much sense on the Viking side, but you can play Kamara and Murray in the same lineup. That's fine. And Kamara, the ceiling is just astronomical now without Taysom Hill at quarterback, with Drew Brees there and no Michael Thomas. We know the targets are there. We know we can project rush attempts. And, while Taysom Hill may come in for certain packages near the red zone, we can still project much more touchdown equity there in the red zone for Alvin Kamara. He's my favorite play of the week. And I don't think it's particularly close. Even on a slate where, Dalvin Cook's an option, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, some of those high-priced guys that could all certainly have ceilings, Kamara has just the most projectable path forward for sure. And as we talk about sort of backfilling the receiving position there for the Saints, we obviously won't be having Michael Thomas. We won't have Traquan Smith. So what have they done? What have they done so far? Well, looks like Juwan Johnson was pretty much a full-time starter for them. You can get him for a pretty affordable price here this week. Played 76% of the team snaps, ran 90% of the routes in this offense last week. Certainly a guy who didn't pop up on the box score a whole lot last week. You can consider the peripheral numbers are there in support of Juwan Johnson, as they are for Lil Jordan Humphrey. Matter of fact, this podcast coming to you very late today because Lil Jordan Humphrey decided to wreck my model here today with the spelling of his name and his apostrophe. Just broke everything in the whole system. So the moral of the story is don't build a very finicky system that can be so easily defeated as mine. But overall, Lil Jordan Humphrey definitely in consideration as well. When Traquan Smith went down, Traquan played 44% of the snaps last week. Lil Jordan Humphrey played 49, so that was sort of complementary there together. Now we'll have no Traquan. We can expect basically full workload for Emmanuel Sanders, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Juwan Johnson here in this offense. I wouldn't go too much deeper than that. You'll be playing pretty low ownership, I imagine, for Juwan Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey, especially Johnson for sure. He's a full-time player but didn't get a lot of stats last week. Can certainly consider playing all those guys. And playing a couple value guys, pairing that with Drew Brees is going to be a really interesting way to build. At the tight end position for the Saints, obviously Jared Cook is the number one guy, but don't forget about Adam Troutman and Josh Hill. Those guys do rotate in there for the Saints. Not a ton. If you're playing one, it's probably Troutman. He is on the field about twice as often as Josh Hill is at this point. So, keep that in mind, but not projecting big volume or anything like that for Troutman or Josh Hill. Just want to keep it consistent there with that 3 wide set, starting tight end. But, even a guy like Jared Cook, really dicey, but can be used as a red zone weapon. So he's sort of a perfect, dart throw type guy in a showdown format. We look at the Minnesota position. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen as starting wide receivers. It's tough to go any deeper than that. You've got Chad Beebe and Olabisi Johnson running some routes out there, and be clear that Chad Beebe is the number 3 in this offense, not Olabisi Johnson. So if you are going to try to get cute and play a third receiver for the Vikings, it is Chad Beebe. So don't get too cute there. But at the tight end position, obviously we're projecting a big bump up for Irv Smith, and it's going to be Tyler Conklin, who is out there running the most routes as the number 2 tight end in this offense, with Kyle Rudolph sidelined last week. 66% of the snaps for Tyler Conklin. Ran a route on 80% of of Kirk Cousins' dropbacks last week. So certainly a guy that you could consider sprinkling a little bit in. He'll certainly be under the radar, Tyler Conklin. And is a capable pass catcher, red zone threat for sure. Very much just going to sort of fill right into that Kyle Rudolph role for as long as he's out. Obviously, that's a big bump to Irv Smith, but overall, just want to temper expectations because Kirk Cousins does like to focus on Thielen and Jefferson and a little bit of Dalvin Cook as well. And, don't be scared off by the price point on any of those guys. They're certainly all in play. So let's take a look at the captain considerations here this week. It's a runaway, man. I had to sort of go back and recalculate and look at this a few times because I just couldn't believe Alvin Kamara was so far ahead of the rest of the field as the optimal captain this week. And I think it makes sense because there are just so many paths to floor for Alvin Kamara in this game. I mean, he's going to get projectable 20% or more of the targets, which is, wide receiver 1 type usage. He's going to project for about 40% of the rush attempts in this offense or more. And that, gives him just a tremendous floor ceiling combo. It's something that really nobody else on the slate has. And I mean, like even a guy like Dalvin Cook, he's going to get the rushing volume, but you don't have like this super high projection for him in the passing game the way you do for Alvin Kamara with no Michael Thomas and no Traquan Smith out there. The ball's got to go somewhere, and Kamara is just going to have a huge target projection here in this game. And then it's Emmanuel Sanders. And so it makes sense that the 2 favorites, the top 2 options here for captain are the favorite in this game by about a touchdown. That makes sense because, while Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, you see they're the next 3 guys. While they can certainly pop off and be the optimal captain, they all sort of eat into each other's opportunity there on the Minnesota side. So like in a game where Minnesota gets ahead and one of those guys compiles a lot of stats, they all sort of like compete against one another, whereas it's just really straightforward there for New Orleans. It's like the offense is going to go through Alvin Kamara this week. He makes him an optimal captain play for sure. Looking at our flex options, it's the 2 quarterbacks up there, Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, followed by Kamara, Cook, Latavius Murray. So really interesting placement there for Latavius Murray. He's cheap. You can play him in the same lineup as Alvin Kamara. There should be plenty of touchdowns to go around in New Orleans. There's not a lot of viable alternatives there in terms of the options in that offense. Emmanuel Sanders right there as well. Thielen, Jefferson right there together. Will Lutz, Dan Bailey, Jared Cook, then Olabisi Johnson. And then scroll down a little bit further. Lil Jordan Humphrey, Juwan Johnson, they're right there as well. You can consider playing those guys. As a matter of fact, I will. I think I'll probably play them a bit more than simulations indicate here. I think they just make a tremendous way to stack around Drew Brees, and certainly lets you get up to a Kamara captain lineup. I like the way that looks. I want to try to prioritize Alvin Kamara in this game. And, even the passing attack there for the Saints. I don't mind going with, stacks around Drew Brees, even if it means I don't get to Kirk Cousins. That's okay. But I'd like to get Cousins and Cook. I mean, we want some of the expensive players in this lineup, and we're going to have to come down, and those cheap Saints receivers are probably the best way for us to get there. So you got all the information you need. Merry Christmas, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day with your families. Hopefully you don't neglect them too bad. Got a 4:30 kickoff. Let's have some fun. Let's make some money. See you guys. Let's see. What's it? It's Friday now? We'll see you Saturday. We got a Saturday show coming up tomorrow. Have a good one. See you soon.